Things just got worse and worse and worse as the night went on. Again, valiant effort down the stretch for the Bucs. Just too little, too late. Let's go down and let's see what Coach Fletch and the rest of the crew has to say. And as always, go Bulls. So let's head into the locker room right now and see what the guys have to say about that one. Wow. Where do the Buccaneers go from here? What an incredible atmosphere. What a good win for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They snapped a 7-game winning streak. How we feeling, Bucs Nation? It's time to party, baby.
Are you ready? Are you ready for tonight? This is one of the biggest games in any sport that this country has seen. U.S. Canada Part 2 in the championship of the Four Nations face-off. I am jacked up, and you can just see it around the country. Even people that don't even talk hockey, they're focused on the game tonight. And you should too. USA, USA, USA. Let's go. God, I can't wait. And listen, keep your political affiliation aside. Even President Trump today called the U.S. team to wish them luck ahead of tonight's game against Canada. I am so jacked up for this game. I will be at the Dignitary Cafe, 4817 Southwest Shore Boulevard with my guys, the We the Thunder podcast. Come watch the game with us. I know a lot of people are wondering, where are you going to watch the game? Where can we watch the game tonight? Come to the Dignitary I say the Dignitary Tea and Cobb House, Dignitary Cafe, 4817 Southwest Shore Boulevard. We will be having a kind of a live watch along as well, so you can check us out on YouTube as well. But we want you there. Come to the building, 4817 Southwest Shore Boulevard, the Dignitary Cafe. Come hang out with us, my guys from the We the Thunder podcast, Shooter, Stash, Tommy Schooley, everybody. We are ready to roll. And of course, we're going to talk Lightning hockey. We're going to talk U.S. and Canada hockey with Braydon Coburn at 12:15 today. So just in over 10 minutes, the 2020 Stanley Cup champion from our Tampa Bay Lightning, Braydon Coburn, will join us here on the program to break down that game tonight. Also, we have Eddie Encina from the Tampa Bay Times at 1:30. He's going to join us as well with his 2 cents on the Four Nations and the Lightning returning to the ice yesterday. They're on the ice again in Brandon today. And we'll talk some football as well at 1 o'clock. Matt Matera from Pewter Report. He'll chime in on the Four Nations, of course, but also the options for the Buccaneers when it comes to filling the spots at the wideout position. The edge, the corner, the inside linebacker, those are the positions that they need to make sure that they fortify if they're going to be contenders in the 2025 regular season. I want to hear from you. How jacked up are you about the game tonight? Give me your predictions. Give me your game predictions. Who's going to score? Who's going to be the MVP? Who's going to score the game-winning goal? Let's hear him right now before we get Braydon Coburn on the program. Let me know, and we'll get you here on the Jay Recher podcast. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. I got people emailing, texting. Everybody's ready to roll. Everybody is excited for tonight, as am I. I'm already rocking the red and the blue and the white. Somewhere, we are ready. I cannot wait for this game tonight. You thought Saturday night was jacked up? You thought Saturday night had people fired up in North America? Wait until you see what happens tonight. Now, when you look at this battle, are you going to see 3 fights in the first 9 seconds? I don't think you're going to see that. But I don't think that that is going to take away anything from the emotion of this contest. No Charlie McAvoy, that's going to suck, of course. Cale Makar is going to be in there. But to me, it doesn't matter. That game is going to be fire. And at TD Gardens there in Boston, and those fans are going to bring it. You need to earn that reputation tonight, as our guy says, Nick in Sarasota. Earn that reputation tonight. Bring the Thunder. You can borrow that from the Lightning. Bring the Thunder. Stephanie says US 4-3. Coach Pyle, 2-1 USA in overtime. Dolan, he's super jacked up. Go USA, 4-2. The Stash, super pumped for tonight's game, especially coming off that amazing block party live last night. As Vazdi as the surprise guest, my MVP vote is Gensel. Score prediction 4-2. I think Jake Gensel is the guy with the inside track. because he scored the 2 goals against Team Canada last Saturday night. You're going to need contributions from everybody. And the United States, when they come out tonight, they need to come out with that same energy, that same fire. If they go down, they go down. Canada had a 1-0 lead in that last game. That does not mean a damn thing. And I think back at international competition in the past, right? Think back to when Sidney Crosby scored the overtime goal, the golden goal in the Olympics, where the only reason why the U.S. was in that game was in Ryan Miller. The disparity level when it came to the rosters, it wasn't even close. Now we're toe-to-toe. We're bellying up right next to these guys at the bar. We're ordering top shelf liquor. You know why? Because Team USA, in my opinion, is the team to beat. You look at Matthew Tkachuk. You look at Brady Tkachuk. I like that our top players for the red, white, and blue are badasses. I like that they're the guys that are willing to drop the gloves. They're the guys willing to go to the dirty areas. They're the guys willing to lay the big hits. You're not seeing that from Connor McDavid. You're not seeing that from Nathan McKinnon. Those guys want to fly up and down the rink. Fine. This isn't 4-on-4 indoor roller hockey that you see in Long Island and Smithtown. That ain't happening here. This is a physical contest. And the red, white, and blue, they came to play last Saturday night. And I put my money that they're going to do the same thing tonight at TD Gardens against the Canadians. This is going to be a matchup that you're going to be talking about for many, many years as a hockey fan. And I cannot wait. Connor Hellebuck, clear advantage in net. Play to your level. Be the best goalie in the world. A lot of people here in the Tampa Bay area think Andrei Vasilevsky is the best goalie. And I'm going to tell you this. If there's one goalie in the world that you would pick in a game 7 or in a game tonight, it'd be Andrei Vasilevsky. But in the last 2 years, no goalie has played better than Connor Hellebuck. Not one. He's the man. You tip your hat to that guy. And I am very grateful that he is the guy. He's the man that is backstopping and between the pipes for the red, white, and blue tonight. Defensively, you look at guys like Jacob Slavin. You look at guys like Zach Werenski. I got faith that they're going to be able to do the job tonight. Brock Faber playing with Jacob Slavin. Adam Fox, Noah Hannafin. All these guys. This is your time to shine. This is your game. Coach Powell saying February 22nd, 1980, US 4, the USSR 3. Mike Eruzione, you saw the video that they posted to get everybody fired up. You know how much of a part USA Hockey is so inclusive, bringing in people from the past, bringing in members of that 1980 team, bringing in Johnny Gaudreau, his pops, having him be a part of this entire thing. You know how proud a guy like John Tortorella is on the bench as an assistant for Mike Sullivan. I know in a weird way, and I had this conversation a couple of years ago, if you're patriotic for your country, it's almost corny. People almost kind of look at you funny. I think that sucks, honestly. As a guy with 2 grandfathers that served in the military for this country to defend our freedom, I always take things like this very seriously. I always stand for the national anthem, and I put my hand across my heart, and I sing the national anthem every single time. Because even though this country does have warts, and it can improve and it can get better, and by no means is it a finished product, I'm not going to sit here and not support it. I'm not going to sit here and not be proud of the progress that has been made since this country came to be. The advances that we've seen in my damn near 40 years on this earth, and all the great things and all the different ideologies and different backgrounds and different religions and different political affiliations, when people can get together and do great things. I choose to highlight that stuff. Not bitch and moan and point fingers at the things that don't do positive and don't bring optimism and don't bring people together. And sure, you can point those out all you want. You do that shit on your own time, not here. And there's no better way to bring people together than sports. There's no excuse for those people that think it's corny to be patriotic. than a game like tonight. Seeing the four nations come together, watching the World Cup, watching the Olympics. But you just see it right here in this four nations face-off. I said it earlier this week, and I'll say it again. When Howie Rose, longtime broadcaster for the Mets, one of the greatest calls of all time, Stephane Matteau, 1994 for the Rangers, when he said that these were meaningless games, and old school Iron Sheik, no way. Not a freaking chance. Tell me this is meaningless. Don't tell me this is meaningless. These guys are playing for the crest on their jersey, the front. That's why when the U.S. wins and they have a player of the game, they put Johnny Gaudreau and they flip that jersey around. He's in the front because that's what it's about. It's bigger than ball. It's bigger than hockey. Things like this, memories that last a lifetime. You know where you're going to be tonight. And when you look back on this game between the U.S. and Canada, when you talk about this game 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, you're going to look back and go, I remember where I was when I watched that game. I remember who I was with. I remember who scored the goal that made me jump for joy, or who scored the goal that pissed me off, that sent me home unhappy. That is why we love sports. It's an escape from reality. It gives us an opportunity to get together, and no matter what the hell is going on in your life, you can invest your emotions, you can invest your time and your energy and your money, whatever you want to do. This is your right to do what you want. You have the privilege to be able to sit here and watch these guys leave it all on the line. And I don't know if you saw PK Subban on this morning with First Take on ESPN, and he was absolutely ripping NBA players who get paid $40, $50, $60 million a year and then half-ass it during the All-Star break. And they act like we owe them something that they don't need to put their bodies on the line, even though they're getting paid twice, 3 times, 5, 10, 15, 30 times more than people doing other things in this country. Think about how much more money an NBA player's making than a local firefighter or a police officer or a teacher. And then they have the opportunity to just opt out and sit out of a back-to-back and not put themselves. That's the reason why they live lavishly. It's because they get paid hundreds of millions of dollars to play a game. And then when they decide I don't want to play, maybe I'm not, and just humming and hawing and all this other bullshit. No. That's why, to this day, hockey to me is the best sport, and it's not close. Go watch the game tonight. Not one person is going to half-ass it. Not one. Not one person is going to be on their phone and not emotionally invested in the crowd. Nobody's going to opt out at halftime. Nobody's going to sit out for load management. None of that crap. That ain't happening. This is why hockey's the best. A game like tonight. A combination of speed and skill and strength and togetherness. You can't be a one-man band. You can't be one of 5 and think that you're going to be the best. That's not the way it works. You're not playing all 60 minutes. You can't do it. Nobody's done it. It'll never happen. You can't win with one person. You have to win as a team. You have to do it together. You got to struggle. You got to grind. You got to battle through pain. And you're going to see that spotlighted tonight. Because of what happened last Saturday, all eyes are going to be on TD Garden tonight. And that's an awesome thing. It's great to see such an unbelievable sport get the spotlight that it deserves. I've covered every freaking sport under the sun. There are no athletes in any sport that treat you better as a media member, that make you feel like part of the group, that make you understand that this is not just about me, this is about everybody, than hockey. I'm ready to go. I'll run through a freaking brick wall. Like Ren saying, sounds like Jay had an extra cup of coffee today. I didn't even have coffee today, Ren, which is kind of funny that you say that. But I'm ready to go. I am ready to roll for this game. I cannot wait. This is going to be incredible. And you look at some of the stars that are going to be in this game. The McDavids, the McKinnons, the Matthews, the Marners. And again, I go back to Howie Rose saying that this was a meaningless game. There are only 3 people, or there are only 3 cups, I think, when it comes to Team USA. Right? Jake Gensel, Matthew Tkachuk. I think that's it, right? If I'm not mistaken, or Gensel has 2. So don't tell me that these guys, like, because you look at Gensel, Tkachuk, nope. Oh, Eichel, okay. Eichel. So out of all those people that are playing for Team USA tonight, only 3 of them have won a Stanley Cup. So to the rest of those guys, this will be the biggest game that they've ever played in their career. Not a freaking chance that this is a meaningless game. Those guys woke up this morning and looked outside of their hotel room and looked at that sun shining and realized what was in front of them. Tonight is a game that is going to define a legacy. It's going to define a generation. It really is. We're going to do this every 2 years. You know, they're going to have the World Cup of Hockey. They're going to have this, the Olympics. We get that. And it sounds like a great thing. I'm very happy that that's going to happen. But with that being said, you're always going to remember the first one. You're always going to remember this 4 nations face-off because they're probably not going to do this specific thing ever again. Because hopefully when you get to the World Cup of Hockey, when you get to the Olympics, we're going to get the Czechs. We're going to get the Russians. We're going to get the Slovaks. We're going to get other countries around. The Germans, the Swiss. We need more teams, without a doubt. It sucks to see a tournament like this and not see Leon Draisaitl dress with the Germans. It sucks not to see David Pastrnak with the Czechs or Nico Hischier and the Roman Josi and the Swiss. We're missing those guys. No doubt about it. We want to see Nikita Kucherov and Andrei Vasilevsky and Mikhail Sergachev. And Ovechkin will play till he's freaking 60. We want to see the Russians. But right now, it was 4 nations. It was the U.S., it was Canada, it was Finland, and it was Sweden. And this was the game that everybody thought, or this was the matchup that everybody thought we were going to see in the championship. The red, white, and the blue, and the nation with the maple leaf on the front. And I don't know about you guys, but I am all in. I have been. I am not one of those people like, oh, I didn't know. Yeah, maybe it would have been good. Blah, 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 blah. You know what happens when you hear shit like that? That's people that aren't around players. That's people that aren't around the game. Because I've been telling you since last year at the All-Star game in Toronto that the people that weren't in it didn't care. The guys, the David Pastrnaks, the Draisaitl's of the world, but every other Canadian and U.S.-born player that was there in Toronto after the announcement was made, everybody kept saying, I want to be on that team. Nobody's opting out. Nobody's saying, oh, I don't know if I want to be. I want to spend more time with my family. I want to take a vacation. No. Do that in the offseason. Do that when your career is done. Right now is to play hockey, and right now is to represent your country. So when you look at the rest of the players, yeah, this isn't the Team Canada. When you look around, you look at how many different people have won a Stanley Cup. Braydon Point has, Mark Stone has, Sidney Crosby has, Nathan McKinnon has, Reinhart has, Cirelli has, Marchand has, Bennett has, Devon Taves has, Kel McCarr has, Colton Parayko has, Drew Doughty has, Jordan Binnington has. Look at the difference between those two teams. And I'm not saying Canada is going to make it, you know, they're not trying and they don't care because they certainly do. But you want to talk about these players on Team USA, where only 3 of them have won the Stanley Cup. The rest of those guys are going to be chomping at the bit. And I don't even think it matters to a guy like Matthew Tkachuk. Do you? Do you think it matters to Matthew Tkachuk that he won a Stanley Cup when it comes to a situation like this? Do you think he's going to try any less? Do you think he's going to dial it down? Do you think he's going to preserve his body because he's got a matchup on Saturday night? I don't care about that. It's about one game. What happened last Saturday is in the past. I don't think you're going to see a bunch of fights to start the game. I think you're going to see a lot of physicality. You're going to see a lot of chirping. You're going to see a lot of guys going at it. This is going to be probably one of the best hockey games that you're ever going to see. Ring up a friend, ring up a family member. Don't watch this game alone. Go watch it with somebody so you can share this memory of this game tonight with somebody that you care about. So you can always have a memory to look back on. This game's going to be intense. And I, for one, I'm not going to miss it. Let me text my guy, Braydon Coburn. I know Kobe's not feeling 100% today, but he said he would join me for a couple of minutes because I want to get, like, this is a guy that played for Team Canada for the World Juniors, and Kobe's going to tell us what this means, what a game like tonight means for the U.S., for the Canadians, and if he thinks it's meaningless, because I sure as hell don't. Lightning back on the ice today, which was great to see those guys back out there. And if you missed the interviews yesterday with Eric Erlandson saying that J.J. Moser is going to be back in the lineup Sunday night at 6 o'clock against the Seattle Kraken, Yanni Gourde comes to town. It'll be nice to see the Bolts. It'll be weird too, right? Like, think about it. These guys are going to be fighting tooth and nail tonight at TD Garden. Brad Marchand's going to be dressing in the visitors' locker room at the place that he calls home. But after Jake Gensel battles Braydon Point, he's going to be playing on a line with him Sunday night. After John Cooper tries to dial up a way to figure out how to stop Jake Gensel, he's going to deploy him on his power play against the Kraken Sunday night at 6 o'clock at Amalie Arena. But there's not going to be any type of reservations. There's not going to be any type of holding anything back or pulling back. There are going to be people that are be going full force. And I cannot wait. I cannot wait. Last night was a lot of fun as well. I don't know if you guys saw it, but I was at the Lightning Block Party Power Play Live, the Block Party Live. I've been doing that for a while now. And to see Greg Wolf and Braydon Coburn there, and I don't know if you saw it, but the guy that was there, the special guest, was Andrei Vasilevsky. And I know some people were wondering, like, how's it going to go? Is Vazzy really going to, like, let people know? You know, is he going to talk a lot? Is he going to be very soft-spoken? He is soft-spoken, but is he going to be very, articulate as far as, like, is he going to talk a lot? And he really did. And if you want to see what it was like, because people were so excited to see Andrei Vasilevsky. I don't know if you missed it or not, but if you did, here was Greg Wolf introducing Andrei Vasilevsky last night, the Lightning Block Party Live. What an incredible atmosphere. They have one next Wednesday. Go try to sign up now to get in the building because it is very, very special to be a part of that. Here is Andrei Vasilevsky yesterday walking in to the Lightning Block Party Live and being the special guest for Greg Wolf and Braydon Coburn.
Welcome here to the Cigar City Tap Room, powered by Highline IPA. Make some noise for the best goalie in the National Hockey League. you feeling alone, man? I usually don't see this red list.
Incredible. Andre Vasilevsky was a fantastic guest, and when they released that whole thing with Andre on the block party with the guys, you have to watch it because it was such incredible insight to just the man behind the mask. It really was. It was incredible to hear what he had to say about his team. Did you know that he was probably going to get drafted by the Ottawa Senators? Yeah, I did not know this story. He was supposed to get drafted by the Ottawa Senators, and the night before that he was going to skate up in Ottawa, he went to a water park with his brother and got sunburned. And he couldn't skate the next day. And that kind of said to Ottawa, like, oh, this guy's not serious. He's not trying to be a professional, blah, blah, blah. And then he falls a couple of picks later to number 19. And the Tampa Bay Lightning draft him in the first round, and the rest is history. He also spoke about Nikita Kucherov and how he helped them after games, after tough losses, because Vasi was one of those guys that he took losses so hard when he was a young player. And I remember after a game where he played his ass off and the team lost like 2-1, and we walk out of the locker room and Vasi is there and he's like throwing a tennis ball against the wall, and he's going crazy, just like at full speed, working on his reaction. He just played 60 minutes. I think that day he made like 40 or 50 stops. It was nuts. He had to learn to kind of let it go. Take the Elsa approach. Relax a little bit. Chill out. Because for him, he always kept his foot on the gas pedal. That's his big thing. What can I do? What can I do to make sure that I'm not leaving any stone unturned? Well, you got to have balance too. And that's something that he was able to learn over the years. And that's a big part why he is a Vezina Trophy winner and a Conn Smythe winner and a 2-time Stanley Cup champion, is because he's learned about himself. We know he had that back injury as well, doing too much of those heavy lifting. He was doing those squats, and he's just like, he looks so much calmer. And Braydon Coburn said it last night. He goes, 4 years ago, Vasi wouldn't have done this. He wouldn't have done it. He would have been a guy that was just, didn't want to open up. He thought it was taking away. And that's partially the reason why you don't see Nikita Kucherov doing things like this. He told Greg and Kobe, like, I'll come on the block party, but it has to be after they win a Stanley Cup. It'll probably be in the off season. It'll probably be like 2 weeks, probably like 2 weeks after the season, because as most of you know, that Kuch doesn't stop. A couple of years ago, we were there for the Lightning development camp, and we looked out, and all these young players, the Ethan Gauthiers of the world, guys that, we're not going to see for a while. All of a sudden, we walk into the locker room and we look, and Nikita Kucherov has his equipment in his locker. And then here comes Braden Point walking in. He's like, hey, guys. It's like, Pointer, what are you doing here? He goes, well, Kucher's out here. That's all you need to know. Kuch is out there. That means everybody else. And you see other guys working with him. I know Alex Killorn told me that same thing in the past. Nick Paul worked with him in the offseason. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw more guys over the years get out there and work with Nikita Kucherov, because what he does, especially on the half wall like that, it's unbelievable. I wanted to show some love to Hall of Fame broadcaster Mike Lang, who passed away at the age of 76 yesterday. He was a guy, and he spent nearly 5 decades covering the Penguins. Stanley Cup champ 5 times. Mario Lemieux, Yager, Crosby, Malkin. He called all those games. He received the Foster Hewitt Award for broadcast excellence back in 2001. The same award that our guy Rick Peckham won a couple of years ago. The TV went to the radio side in 2006, calling the team's games in 2009, 16, and 17 before retiring in August of 2021 after 46 years with the Penguins. Just an incredible voice in the hockey world. And, there's a lot of the different calls that people love. I used to love scratch my back on the hacksaw. Like, he was just, I love old school broadcasters like that, man, that put their own personality into it, that give these guys nicknames, that care that much. You don't do things like that if you half-ass it. You do things like that because you care and you want to liven it up and you want people to enjoy it and have fun. He was the man. He really was. Fantastic. And even in his later years, as I was covering the Lightning and see him up there in the press box and him kind of moving slower in his older age, he was revered by everybody up in the press box. Everybody came by and said hello and wished him well. And yeah, we lost a good one in the broadcasting industry. That's why I think about guys like John Sterling, too, for the Yankees who just retired. You know, when he do all those, he's not your regular Anderson, he's a Granderson, right? It's just things like that. I like that. We go too far one way or the other. Everybody's so stoic and just like no personality at all. And then people don't take it seriously and they're just too goofy about it. You got to be able to toe that, you know, straddle that line there. We hear Dave Mishkin do such a great job. He's such a professional, gets everybody's names right. He's super prepared, but he's very emotional. You know, Mish. He goes wild. He goes crazy. It's such a great time calling games for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And who does Dave Mishkin call the games with? You guessed it, the one and only Phil Esposito. And for those of you who do not know, today is the day. 83 years ago, Philip Anthony Esposito was born. Incredible. One of my pals. I texted him this morning. He didn't text me back, so I'm not happy with him. I will let him know on Sunday night. Who do you think you are, bud? Who do you think you are? Big man of me not texting me back? He usually does, too. I don't text him a lot because he doesn't like texting. But can you imagine how many people that Phil Esposito got text from today? 83 years young. And I know he doesn't feel 100%, so we're going to bring him in, get him out quick. It's our good buddy, Braydon Coburn. Thanks, pal. I appreciate it. I know you're not feeling too great.
Yeah, just kind of travel wears you down. And I thought I was going to dodge the cold this winter, but not quite.
That's all right, man. We'll get you in and out. I want to talk to you a little Four Nations real quick. I was just saying today, Phil Esposito turns 83. Like, Kobe, what's his phone look like this morning, right? Like, what I think about that. He wakes up like, who is saying happy birthday to Phil today? It's like, oh yeah. He told me that one time he goes, Jay, this guy just texted me like 4 times today. I'm like, who? He's like, Wayne. I'm like, Wayne who? He's like, Wayne Gretzky, idiot. I'm like, sorry, Phil. I didn't know that Wayne just texted you out of nowhere.
He is, he is an absolute gem and like a living legend. And I didn't really realize kind of his level of celebrity in his heyday until I got talking to my grandparents, and they were like, Phil Esposito was just on a different level. Like he was a true rock star, a true celebrity, not just in the hockey world, but in the United States in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's nuts, man. Doing the Fidel Sassoon commercials and all these things. I see like old commercials when I go visit my parents in New York, and they're like, check this out from Phil. I'm like, oh my God, look at that head of hair. It is wild. Kobe, I had a very passionate rant earlier this week because another broadcaster said that these are some meaningless games, and it would suck to see any of these NHL players get hurt in a meaningless game. Kobe, tonight, 8:00. Anybody toeing the ice tonight thinking that's a meaningless game?
There's no way. I just think this rivalry is, for me, I remember 96, the World Cup of Hockey. And what did that mean? What does that mean? It means civic pride. It means national pride. It's US versus Canada. It's something just, I don't think you can put a cup on it or a title on it or whatever it is. It's just about pride. And I think we have an intense rivalry with I'm saying Canada and the United States have an intense rivalry. And that just, it goes back, to I don't know how long, but it's these guys feel it, and they don't want to be the guys that let the US get the best of them. And I'm sure the US guys feel the same way. There's a certain amount of just like, they know that it's the best on the best, and they want to come out on top. And there's just I feel like guys are also using this as, a primer for I have to have a good showing because we're going to have the Olympics next year, and I want to be on that team. And everybody that's part of grew up with their national team and looked up to it. I know we had Andre Vasilevsky on last night, and he's talking about one of the things he looked up to was playing on the national team, and guys are no different. And I remember seeing Mark Crawford and when those guys were in Nagano, and Wayne Gretzky was in the shootout, and Dominic Hasek that won the gold medal for them. And it was just like, there's something else about this. And it's just, I feel like saying this is meaningless is really, it's silly, because you can tell it means something to these guys, just the way the back and forth has been. And this one, for whatever reason, has a little bit more feel to it, whether there's some geopolitical stuff kind of going on with, the way the tariffs have kind of been received in Canada and all that stuff. But, it's, I know that I'm looking forward to it, and man, I feel like there's like an energy about this amongst people that I don't even know. Like, last week we wanted to talk about hockey. You're sitting there getting coffee, and your two most unexpected people hey, did you see that Canada US game? And I can't wait to that game. Like, there's a buzz about it, and I'm looking forward to it. And I think that this is just. It's been a genius move by the NHL to finally give the fans this best on best that they've been craving for a long time.
Yeah, Kobe, I look at these two teams, and going into the entire tournament, you're looking at the makeup of the rosters, and you look at the top end talent that Canada has. You can't take away from them. And any team with McDavid, McKinnon, and Makar on are probably going to be your favorites. But when you look at the whole roster of the U.S., and I look at the top guys, right? I look at the fact that Matthew and Brady Tkachuk are top 6 forwards, and they were the guys that were throwing the gloves, right? So it's kind of, I wonder how that's going to play out tonight, because you and I both know it's not always the players. It's never the players. It's the team that wins. I just feel like the U.S. is constructed in a way where a tournament like this may behoove them being a little bit deeper and having more of a grinded out style. How do you think it's going to play out tonight with that? It's almost like a fight, right? Styles make matchups, and there's kind of two different styles in this one.
Well, when these rosters were announced, the first thing that jumped out at me right away was the U.S. defense and goaltending. I think that they're on a different level than the Canadians. I think that D core that they have, and even 3 deep in the U.S. I think Canada would have took any 3 of those goalies. Not to say that Jordan Bennington, Stanley Cup winner, is a slouch by any means, but I feel like that's definitely an area where the U.S. has a lot more depth. I feel like their defense is just maybe a little bit, if they're A1, maybe Canada's A2. They do have the edge in that department. Being Canada, having a McDavid and McKinnon, that is different. But, in these one-off tournaments, you can have guys that can defend and skate like the defense on the USA team. They have I feel like there's just an edge there. And that was the one part that I was nervous for Canada when I saw everything kind of shake down. And I don't know how things are going to turn out tonight. I feel like there's going to be a lot of excitement. I feel like there was a lot of up and down, and it's going to be a patient game. It really is. I think, they're going to get a chance to finally see how the U.S. was playing, and U.S. is going to get a chance to see how the Canada had structured and how they were going to play. So it might be a little bit more measured at the beginning, but I feel like as this game moves along, just the speed that these guys play with is going to be fun to watch.
How good is Jacob Slavin? I mean, this is a guy that I think, you look at him, Makar, everybody says Makar's the best defenseman, and they say that, yes, because of, the offense that he brings. But I mean, for the last 5 or 6 years, I've looked at this guy and I go, I don't know if he's made a mistake, like, ever. You know what I mean? I know it's exaggerating, but like, watch him with Carolina, watch him play for Team USA. It's like when he needs to flip the puck high and get it out, he does it. When he has to make a short pass to a guy, he does it. When he wraps the puck around the boards, he does it. When he needs to be physical, when he needs to use a stick, like, he makes the right decision every single time. He's certainly one of the more underrated players outside of Carolina. They know how good he is. But Kobe, when you watch a guy as steady as that, I mean, there's no secret that when anything goes down his side, it usually goes right back the other way.
Well, he's been well coached. Rob Brindamore is a hell of a coach. He knows what he's doing there. He's been a homegrown talent for them. His his feet are unbelievable. It's hard to move around a guy like that. It's just because he's able to recover so easily. And the thing in Carolina is they've been playing a man-on-man system for a long time, which it's not easy. That puts a lot of pressure on defense because there's not going to be someone there to help you out. And he relies on those guys to be able to take care of their one-on-one matchups. And, he's a master of it. And I think you're seeing that his skill set come to the forefront. And that's why this tournament for me is just amazing, because you get to see these guys that we know that Carolina's a great team. We know that they're a good defensive team. We know they have a good D-core, but when you get to see Jacob Slavin match up against the top guys and shut down the McKinnons and the McDavids and all these guys, you get a brand new appreciation for what these guys do in their game. And even when they're not, they're filling the puck in the net with the pucks all the time, they just have a way of moving around the ice that's very unique to them and extremely valuable in a team setting.
Yeah, he's one of those guys, and you saw like moving guys around, and you're like, oh yeah, put Brock Faber with him, kind of the young guy on the blue line, and everything kind of settled in nice. Not having McAvoy is going to hurt, obviously bringing in the physical presence, but you bring in a guy like Jake Sanderson, who, obviously his dad played in the game. I mean, he's no slouch either. Everybody wanted to see if Quinn Hughes was going to make it, but it didn't work out that way.
I know Jake well.
Yeah.
I played with his dad.
Oh wow!
And we spent a lot of time together in the summertime, and I spent some time with Jake. And just a heck of a kid, and just a guy that works. And he's going to be. I truly believe he's going to be just a true superstar in this league. He's just finding his groove. He was the youngest player in his draft class. He really is still a kid in many respects, even though he's got all these years, a couple of years under his belt now. But his ceiling is as high as any of the U.S. defensemen that I see. And when I watch Ottawa, he's a guy that it pops out to me, and a guy that I really like watching. His elusiveness, his calmness with the puck. Those are things that I'm like watching it, and I don't throw this around too much, but that's a Nicholas Lindstrom type of composure that he has, and especially at a young age. And I think he's in a good spot where he's going to be growing with that young team in Ottawa as well.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I know a lot of people are going to be looking at him, right? Like it's tonight, because you're replacing a guy like Charlie McAvoy, especially on his home ice too. Before I let you go, and again, thank you so much for your time. Take me through last night talking to Andrei Vasilevskiy. The ability, I played the video of the introduction a little earlier here on the podcast, but you brought up a good point. 4 years ago, he probably doesn't do that, but he's so much more comfortable in his own skin. I even see it like in post-game interviews, like he'll instead of being like dragged over, Vassy be like, all right, my turn. You know what I mean? Like he's just a different guy. And I was there, Kobe, that first night when Vazzy went in for Bish, and it was the Stanley Cup final, and I was in the locker room. And this is before we went up on the podium, and Breezer was standing right next to him because his English was so broken. And he had to speak to the media, but it was just, I never saw that even to this day, 10 years later. But wow, what a growth of not just the player on the ice, but the human being, the person off of it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different factors, and he mentioned those about just being more comfortable with the culture, being more comfortable with the language. But the biggest thing for me, Jay, when that I came away from last night is that he seems very, very focused on enjoying the process, and almost like a tortured artist sometimes. I think in past years he put so much pressure on himself to be just perfect all the time, and man, that just is psychologically of having that weight of the team on you, and then having that weight of like when I go in the net, I just have to be perfect. And I feel like he's enjoying this process. He's realizing that this is such a great time, and this career is going to go fast, and there's just a lot of different moving parts in it. I think he's embracing this opportunity to sit back and just kind of bask in what he's already accomplished, and really kind of appreciate what's ahead in the road for him. And we heard him like he's a competitor through and through, and it's tough when you play a game and you can't sleep the next night or that night because your brain you can't turn your brain off. I think he's taken a real big effort to try to make sure that, hey, maybe this isn't sustainable. What do I have to do to make sure that I can be a top goalie like Marty Brodeur and play into my 40s? He's 30 years old now. That's 10 years down the road. If you're not sleeping at night, then you're playing 50, 60 games a year. there's going to be some problems. And he, like I said, he's a guy that he figures out in his game, what's my weakness? What do I got to improve? And I think he's realized that physically he's just on a different level. Athletically, he's on a different level. He's got the experience of a top elite goaltender now he's just got to figure out a little bit of that psychological part. And I thought that was just really, really insightful for him to say that. And then to mention Cooch, about one of the guys that's been the most instrumental in helping him craft that mental side of the game, and Cooch, and being able to say, like, you know what, sometimes maybe I'll just got to take a step back. Maybe I don't need to fly off the handles and get really upset, and just kind of, refocus and not make the highs high and the lows super low, and kind of stay in that nice steady part. And that's just the evolution of Andrei Vasilevsky that we're seeing, and one of the things that makes him a world-class goaltender, and maybe the best all time.
Yeah, it's funny too. That was the classic Nikita Kucherov, do as I say, but don't do as I do kind of thing, because Kuch still does that, which is funny. But hey, who's to tell him that he's wrong? He's consistently one of the best players in the NHL. Braydon Coburn, the one and only, the Stanley Cup champ. Thanks, brother. I know you don't feel 100%. So great to see you every Wednesday. I'll see you next Wednesday too, because we got another fun Lightning Block Party live. That should be fun. And I know this Sunday you're doing that or Saturday with Greg, right? At GT Financial.
Yeah. Hopefully this is like 24-hour thing. And
get out of there.
When you're trying to talk through your nose, and it's like if everything's echoing in your head, it's just I'm probably rambling on, but
No, you're great, brother.
Apologies.
You're great. Go get some rest. Go take a nap, because you got a big game to watch tonight. Kobe, I love you, man. Be well. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Jay. See you, buddy.
See you, man. The one and only Braydon Coburn. Another one of those guys when people ask, like, how is he really? Like, he's legit. Like, he is that guy. He is awesome. Go check Kobe and Greg Wolf out there Saturday, 1 to 4 p.m. GTE Financial right there in Channelside. For more information, go to gtefinancial.org/channelside. JJ Moser is going to be out there. Nick Paul is going to be out there. Greg and Kobe as well. Again, 1 to 4 on Saturday. Let's see here. Jay, you need to get some light up shoes that say happy birthday and text a picture to Phil. I can hear him now. Geez, Jay for FC. Yeah, you're probably right. I know. He didn't text me back yet. That son of a gun. I mean, I should call him, right? No, I'm not going to call him. Phil will be pissed. You know what it is with Phil? Like, he's in the middle of something usually. So he'll probably be out to dinner. He's like, oh, I'm going to lunch with this guy. I'm getting a call from this guy. So he'll text me back like hours later. Thank you, buddy. And then emoji. Oh, man. He's a like, he loves those emojis. He puts them in there and make sure that everybody, knows what the deal is, which is pretty funny, man. Just such a good time to be able to chat with him. But yeah, I'm excited for the game, and I know Phil's going to be locked in as well. I would love to watch this game with Phil, but he would probably hate me because I'd be chanting USA the entire time, and he would. But Phil's different cat, man. He's not nostalgic, so who knows? Like, he's got to cheer for Canada, right? Right? He's been in the U.S. for so long, but for him, like he rarely travels back. He's not a big Trudeau fan. I don't know. Pretty interesting. Real quick on something else I wanted to get to here. I mentioned this when I was promoting the show today. We saluted that. Luka and LeBron. Did you guys see this last night with Luka Doncic and LeBron James? Now, people are looking at this is just the kind of world that we live in now, right? Where the trade was made, Luka Doncic going one way, Anthony Davis going the other way. And everybody kept saying, and especially now that Anthony Davis got hurt, everybody's looking at it like, wow, I can't believe this. This trade was so lopsided for the Lakers. But to those out there, you're looking at this Lakers team going, all right, well, LeBron is still, even though he is okay to defer, he still wants the ball in his hands. You have Austin Reeves that does his best work with the ball in his hands. You traded away a guy like Dalton Connect to the Hornets, who for Mark Williams, and that trade fell through. And ironically enough, the Hornets, with looking at their terrible record last night, after the game last night, the Hornets are now 14-39. The Lakers are 32-21. Luka struggled. LeBron misses 2 late shots to tie the game. But it's funny how people that have said, like, oh, this is definitely going to work no matter what. I can't believe that this deal is so lopsided. You lost at home to the Hornets. The Hornets were 4-19 on the road. Now, is it going to be this bad for this long? I don't think so, because you're going to need time to gel and figure out. Same thing happened when the Heat first got together after they said they were going to win 8 championships. Remember, I think they were 9-8 through their first 17 games. You need time to gel. You need time to figure out floor spacing and things like that. I get that aspect of the whole thing. But at the end of the day, you got to look at what happened last night and go, they better be able to fix it. I still think this is a very flawed team. I still think for a team that needed defensive play in the middle, for a team that needed help rebounding the basketball, the fact that you traded away your best guy that did that, okay. You lost last night to the Hornets, but at the end of the day, too, you only scored 97 points at home. You scored 18 points in the third quarter. You got outscored 32-18 in the third quarter. You were up for 48-37. So who do you point that finger on? Like, who do you say, like, this guy needs to be better, right? Because at the end of the game with the Dallas Mavericks, Luka Doncic had the ball in his hands, and he made some incredible decisions. Last night, with the game on the line, it was LeBron James with the ball in his hands and Luka standing off to the side like just some guy that was just waiting with his hands ready to shoot. I'm here. Is Luka going to be a spot-up shooter? I don't know if that's for the benefit of everybody. You look at his overall stats, 14 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists. A couple of assists shy of a triple-double. I guess he played a good game. Not really. Shot 5 of 18, 1 for 9 for 3. Turned the ball over 6 times. That's why basketball is such a misleading sport sometimes when you look at the statistics, when you just look at the box score. Oh, yeah, he must have had a good game. Not really. Not really at all. And again, going back to what we heard from PK Subban this morning, it was like, all right, is this going to work? Is somebody going to complain? Is somebody going to hold out? It's like, I don't know. Not great. Shout out to the USF men's basketball team. Oh, no, this is bad. San Antonio Spurs All-Star Victor Wembanyama expected to miss the remainder of the season with a deep vein thrombosis in his right shoulder. That is terrible. My goodness, man. A deep vein thrombosis. What is that, you ask? Well, it occurs when a blood clot forms in one or more of the deep veins in the body, usually in the legs. Deep vein thrombosis can cause leg pain or swelling sometimes. There's no noticeable symptoms. You can get deep vein thrombosis if you have certain medical conditions that can affect how the blood clots. Blood clots in the legs can also develop if you don't move for a long time, so we know that's not it. So I guess it's a positive that it's in his arm and not his legs, but man, that is not good. I feel bad for the Spurs. They just traded for De'Aaron Fox, but first and foremost, you're looking at Victor Wembanyama and just hoping that he's going to be okay. And you're hoping that, and we saw this years ago with thoracic outlet syndrome, what happened with Steven Stamkos, and we've seen with other athletes. When you have things like this, it's one thing to break a bone. It's one thing when you pull a muscle or you tear an ACL, and I get that. But when you start getting into things like this, when it's talking about blood clotting, when you're talking about, I'm not saying just with this, but with your heart or with your brain, things like that, go get healthy, man. And you just never know. When you get basketball players, they have different ailments than just normal human beings because their bodies are so freaking big, man. Think about how big of a guy Victor Wembanyama is. So I hope that this isn't something that is going to affect him long term. It's obviously strong enough to keep him out for the rest of the season. We just hope that it's not something that's going to keep him out, for the rest of his career or inhibit him from being, an all-time great, where it looks like he's on that trajectory. This is what John Cooper, Lightning head coach, had to say about U.S.-Canada tonight. This is from Dan Rosen of NHL.com. For me, we're here to celebrate a game. If after this game, all the little girls out there and boys out there are inspired by the players that play this game and how they compete, if they're watching tonight, go and become hockey players. That's the real win, not who wins on the ice. Yeah, okay. Okay, Coop. Would you guys like if Coop said that as the coach of the Lightning? I wouldn't. Trying to win, baby. We're out here trying to win. So I get what you're trying to say, and I get that it's growing the game. But your players want to go out there and win, John, and you bet your ass you do too. You want to go out there and take home the dub. Ain't nobody out here looking for silver linings. Ain't nobody out here looking for moral victories, John. My guy Coop. No moral victories out here. I'm looking for some shiny shoes. I got them in the other room. I can't wait. That one is going to be a good one tonight. I am jacked up for that. Again, Phil Esposito is going to be watching that one. What else are we going to talk about today? Oh, yeah, USF men's basketball. What a comeback last night. Did you guys see this? They were done. They were done. It did not look good. Down 20. And they somehow, some way, find a way. Jimmy Williams recorded a career high 16. They erased a 20-point deficit in the second half against UTSA. They're now 13-14, 6-8 in the conference. 5 players finished in double digits. 20-point comeback, tied the second largest in program history. They ended the game on an 18-2 run to win 78-73. Brandon Stroud, the game that Brandon Stroud had yesterday, incredible. So you tip your hat to these guys. I know it's been a crazy year for them, but for them to be able to continue to fight on the road, Stroud with 11 points, 17 rebounds, 5 steals, 4 blocks, 3 assists. B. Stroud, insane. How about this USF bench outscoring the UTSA bench 33-9? And I just remember checking in on this game as I was working last night doing the Lightning block party live, and 43-29 in the second half. You're like, this doesn't look too good. And then you keep checking back. You keep looking. You go, oh, they're hanging in there. Oh, they're battling back. Oh, this game is tied. And then they win this game. And that's what you want to see. You want to see fight from this USF men's basketball team. You want to see fight. I love that. I love it. I think in a year where they've just gotten so many things thrown at them, the ability that they have to just stick in there, stay on it. I just tip my hat. I tip my hat to Coach Ben Fletcher and the entire team. They did it. And they just got to keep that momentum going. When you're looking at 3-pointers, I know a lot of people say, oh, this isn't a 3-pointer. This isn't a 3-point shooting team. I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily. You have to be able to hit threes. You have to. You got to be able to do that. If you're not going to do that, it's going to be tough, because that's the game we live in now. You got to be able to score multiple ways. You got to be able to go out there and take the ball to the basket. You got to be able to move the ball. You got to be able to hit those threes. You got to hit your free throws. You got to play good defense, right? So I was happy to see Coach Ben Fletcher and Brandon Stroud. What a game. I was going to try to get somebody on today. I know they had a long night of travel. They're back in action this weekend at the Yingling Center. A noon tip-off for the fellas. Again, go get your tickets for every single thing USF. Go USFBulls.com. I'm actually doing softball on Saturday. So it's 1:30 and then 8:30 on the call there for the girls. Women's basketball plays, I think, at like 6:30 or 7:30 on Saturday. A wild weekend at USF. Baseball is on the road as well. And then Sunday, I don't know if I'll make the men's game at noon, but I'll definitely be at Amalie Arena at 6 o'clock Sunday night as they take on the Kraken. Dolan, probably lots of Canadians will hate Coop if they don't win tonight. That's happened. And shout out to Cheverly Timbers. This is going to happen tonight. If the Canadians don't win tonight, all of the blame will go on John Cooper and Julian Brisebois and how this team was constructed and how John Cooper put his lines together. None of it is going to be on the players. None of it is going to be on the goalies or the defensemen. None of that. None of it is going to be on the star players. All the talk is going to be, why wasn't Nick Suzuki on this team? Why wasn't Logan Thompson on this team? Why did they do this? Why did they do that? Look at these guys. They're from the Tampa Bay Lightning. What do they know about hockey, even though they both have 2 Stanley Cups on their resume? That kind of stuff is not going to matter, because these fans north of the border are going to blame John Cooper and Julian Breezeball if they don't win tonight. They're not going to give credit to the U.S. They're not going to say Mike Sullivan is a cup-winning coach too. They're not going to look at the Kachuk brothers and be like, wow, what an incredible performance by those guys. That defense was fantastic. Connor Hellebuck's one of the best goalies in the league. None of that. The blame game is going to be played. You watch. I'm going to cut this up. I'm going to put it on social media. And then you're going to see it. Because after tonight, when the red, white, and blue come out on top, all the blame will go to John Cooper and Julian Breezeball. You know what they're going to do? One of these actions. They're going to wave like Dave Bautista did when he retired from the WWE. And then they're going to get their happy ass on the plane. And then they're going to come back to Bautista's hometown in Tampa. And then they're going to help the Lightning win another Stanley Cup. Speaking of champions, this guy's a champ. Matt Matera, my guy from Pewter Report. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
I'm doing well, Jay. How about yourself?
I am so excited for this game tonight, bro. And I know there's just like so many people inside the hockey world, outside the hockey world. Like, I know you, I saw you put something last night on social media about it. Like, this is, regardless of what else is going on at 8 o'clock tonight, like, everybody's going to be locked in this U.S.-Canada game. It's coming at the perfect time. There's not really much else going on.
Yes, it's got that big fight feel. Even the first game when it was USA against Canada, I remember having goosebumps, like just seeing the crowd going crazy. Obviously, the 3 fights in 9 seconds, the Kachuk brothers, everybody getting into it. I am so thrilled for tonight. The representation as well, a lot of Lightning representation. I'm a Penguins fan, so obviously Mike Sullivan being the head coach. I know the Lightning claimed Jake Kensel, but let's remember where Jake Kensel won a Stanley Cup. That was with the Penguins, and then obviously with Sidney Crosby on the other side. So I am so thrilled. I'm very excited. I hope USA wins. I hope they dominate again, and I hope the Kachuk brothers are in the mix. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, I know, man. I'm so excited. I cannot wait. And it's just different. It's a different kind of excitement. You know, I was there for Stanley Cup wins and Super Bowl wins, but this is just something different about this, Matt. Your allegiances are all crossed, right? It's the first time in my life I'm rooting against guys like John Cooper and Braydon Point. So, you know, to have that, it's kind of funky. Thanks so much for joining us today. I know a lot of people still talking some NFL action I want to talk about the wide receiver position first. People looking at T. Higgins. I had my guy Rick Uccino on earlier this week from Cincinnati. It looks like Cincinnati's going to find a way to try to keep T. Higgins. So all those people are like, oh yeah, he could go to Jacksonville, go to New England. All signs for them up there point to T. Higgins returning, and I think we have something similar down here where a lot of signs point to Chris Godwin returning. What would it take for him not to be back with the Buccaneers for the 2025 season, you think?
Contract talks, extension talks breaking down at the end. Obviously, they pushed the void date back to the start of next year, which is March 14th. It would have to take just the distances being so far away on each side with either the number of years that Godwin or the Bucs would want under the extension or the amount of money per season. But I just don't see that happening. So it would have to take breakdowns in those talks and another team just willing to give an ungodly amount of money to Chris Godwin where it's an offer that he can't refuse. Maybe it's Jacksonville or Las Vegas because of the ties to Chris Godwin, with Liam Cohen being the head coach in Jacksonville and John Spytek taking over as general manager for the Raiders. The Commanders are another team that I would be slightly concerned about just because their cap room is pretty good. It's pretty flexible, if I'm not mistaken. Chris Godwin is from Delaware, which obviously isn't Washington, D.C. or the Maryland area, but it's like in that Northeast area, kind of the North area where maybe he'd want to be a little bit closer to home, and the opportunity to play with Jaden Daniels, who obviously is electric and winning Rookie of the Year. But all of that said, I would be very surprised if he's not in Tampa.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I feel like, and I had Greg Allman on yesterday saying, I think he wants to go the same route as Mike Evans, man. I just think he wants to be a Buck for life. He loves it down here. I think, when you look at that, you say, I will have no issue with that. And I think in a weird way, the injury may have helped the Buccaneers when it comes to leverage in this point, because if he really tore it up last year and he didn't get injured, maybe he prices himself out of Tampa Bay. You agree with that?
I completely agree. And the comparison to Mike, don't get me wrong. We love Mike. He's a future Hall of Famer, everything like that. But let's not forget, up until Godwin got injured, it was Chris Godwin that was the locomotive of the passing game specifically. He was top 3 in receiving yards up until he got injured late in that game against the Ravens on Monday Night Football. So part of the intrigue for Godwin to specifically return to Tampa, and I get it's Josh Broussard calling the plays, but Josh Broussard was here last season, is he's going to be the focal point. But if he did not get injured, who knows? He could have led the league in receiving yards, been up there in touchdowns, been in the top 3. That would have changed the game a little bit, especially if T. Higgins goes back to Cincinnati, because then teams would be throwing so much money at him, where now it's a little bit similar to the last time he became a free agent, is how does he bounce back from this injury? Obviously, the Bucs have a little more intel being with him every single day and seeing how he's rehabbed and worked out. But yeah, a little similarity there for sure.
Matt, we're starting to see some mock drafts as we get closer and closer to the NFL draft. And one of those mock drafts, or a couple of them, have the Bucs possibly taking a receiver with that first round pick at 19. Give me the plus minus, the good and the bad, the positive and negatives of why something like that would work or would be a wrong move for the Buccaneers.
Well, if Godwin doesn't return, and I feel like a lot of these mock drafts were kind of predicated with the Bucs specifically on Chris Godwin going somewhere else. But not all national media kind of knows the ins and outs of the Chris Godwin situation like Tampa media does or local media. So with the predication of Godwin not returning, it makes total sense that the Bucs would go and draft a wide receiver in the first round or maybe even in the second round, just considering the longevity of the most important offensive position besides quarterback, because Mike Evans has one more year left on his deal. We don't know how much longer Mike is going to be playing for. And now if Mike wanted to come out and say, hey, I want to play up until 2028 and then go into the Olympics, kind of like what he talked about at the Pro Bowl, well, then that would change the Bucs' plans a little bit, but you also have to factor in for, is he going to play at this high of a level in 2 or 3 seasons from now?
Right.
You don't want to be in a situation where after this season, Mike Evans retires or isn't playing in Tampa anymore, Chris Godwin's on another team. You're down to Jalen McMillan as your number 1, who had a great end of his rookie season, and then you're in a spot where you're drafting a wide receiver, and hopefully he pans out as a number 1 guy. So I am still a fan of, even if Chris Godwin comes back, you want to replenish that wide receiver position, because as important as defense is, and we know the Bucs have all these struggles on the defensive side, the regular season is a little bit more about offense, and then the postseason is where the defense really shines, and that decides who's going to the Super Bowl and who isn't most of the time. Obviously, there's always exceptions to the rules. So I'm still a fan and an advocate, as Paul Heyman would say, of the Bucs still replenishing the wide receiver room. And if you draft one in the first round, and this is all on best player available, if they find an edge rusher at 19 that they think is a great fit, well, then go with the edge rusher because we know of the issues there. But if they have their guy at wide receiver at 19, it shouldn't stop them, because then he comes in, he battles with Jalen McMillan, for wide receiver 3 and wide receiver 4. Trey Palmer doesn't look like it's necessarily going to cut out, but that's fine. He was a late round pick anyway. Then you set yourself up with great depth for this 2025 season. And then whatever happens with Mike Evans after that, you're going into 2026 with Chris Godwin as your number 1 under contract for probably 2, maybe even 3 more years. And Jalen McMillan, let's see what he builds off of from this season, and a top round talent as your wide receiver 3, maybe even wide receiver 2. And 2 of those 3 are on rookie deals. So that's a pretty good scenario going into 2026. And I know that's a long ways away from now.
Right.
The negative would be, well, you have a lot of holes to fill on the defensive side.
Right.
Edge rusher, corner, linebacker, even a safety next to Antoine Winfield Jr. Do you want to keep pushing that aside? Well, I would argue that's what free agency is for. And you have more than 1 pick. You can address a lot of these other positions and players in other rounds. I mean, we saw impacts from Tyke Smith. He wasn't a first-round pick. So I just think the Bucs shouldn't turn a blind eye to a very important position on offense just because they have all of these issues on defense.
Yeah, even the quantity of issues would be one thing if it was 1 or 2, but just because you have to fill so many holes, I think I jive with you if they filled some of those holes in free agency quicker, right? If they went out and said, we're going to go get an inside linebacker and a corner, I'd be like, okay, well, you're helping out here. Now, if you don't draft an edge with that first pick and you wait till the second pick, then I would be okay with that. But take me through how they have to fill out those other spots then, Matt, because, and we'll start with, let's go with the edge. Where are you at with the edge now? Because there's a couple of different scenarios. Do you go and trade for a big guy like a Myles Garrett? Do you wait and go for a veteran guy like a Khalil Mack? Do you try to get Shaq Barrett 2.0 and get like a Joseph Osai from the Cincinnati Bengals and go, hey, him with a more of an opportunity, he'll be able to take that next step? Or do you address it with that first round pick? What door do you open there?
I would open the door of the proven commodity, because we've seen the Bucs try to build their outside linebacker room through the draft, and specifically through the draft, it hasn't panned out the way that we would like to. Now, everybody will point to, hey, JPP and Shaq Barrett. JPP was traded for when he was on the Giants, and Shaq Barrett came from the Denver Broncos, where John Spytek previously was. So he had a closer eye on Shaq Barrett than half the teams. But the guys that they've drafted in Jason Light's tenure, Noah Spence didn't work out. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka did not work out. And Chris Braswell right now, I don't know. He's a second-round pick that got less and less playing time.
I didn't see enough. Did you? I didn't see enough in year one.
I'm still of the belief that he can improve and get better. But what I'm saying is right now, Yaya Diaby's the only proven guy as far as a draft pick that the Bucs can say, hey, we got a guy that we like moving forward. So I don't know. To me, it's risky to draft someone at 19. You may like them, but then to come in and try to develop this guy, who's your other starter after Yaya Diaby? Is it re-signing Anthony Nelson? Is it going back to the well with Shaq Barrett? So I want the proven commodity. Does it have to be Myles Garrett? No, not necessarily, because that's going to cost a ton of draft picks, and we know how Jason Light loves his draft picks, and it's going to cost a ton of money as well. Now, you could argue for sure, hey, he's a game changer. He's the best edge rusher in the league. No doubt about it, but you got to make sure it's the right price. Pewter Report has floated out a lot, trading for Trey Hendrickson, because the Bengals are in a tough cap spot. They want to bring back T. Higgins. They want to sign an extension to Jamar Chase. So their defense is already bad. How much better is Trey Hendrickson making it? If they want to give up a first-round pick this year and maybe some type of pick next year, like a third or a fourth rounder, I'm in for that, because the last two seasons, Trey Hendrickson has reached 17 sacks. That's not combined. That's the last two seasons. So I get why he gets overlooked, which is crazy, because he's in the AFC North where there's TJ Watt and Myles Garrett. They're taking all the headlines, but Trey Hendrickson's been just as good. Khalil Mack, I am a fan of. I know he's older, but remember, he grew up in the state of Florida. The only thing he hasn't accomplished in his career is winning a Super Bowl. Why not end your career in your home state with a team that's, in the Super Bowl window and has reached the postseason 5 years in a row? I don't love the idea of like over $20 million per year, but if it's a 1-year deal, you're one and done, and that's fine. Right. So I'm all for the proven commodity. How they go about it, there's a couple of different ways, but they need a proven guy, because Yaya Diaby, I like him, a little bit more of a second outside linebacker who's going to be that alpha in the room.
Yeah, and I just wonder where, like, I get worried, the older that these guys get, because you very rarely see that kind of like upsurge again. So you look at a couple of years ago, you're like, yeah, Khalil Mack, not too bad 2 years ago, where he had in 2023 all these sacks when he had 17, but 3 years before that, 9, 6, and 8. Last year he had 6. I mean, to his benefit, he played 17, and 16 games the last 3 years. But I'm with you, man. Like they have to make, when we look at this Buccaneers pass rush, Matt, I don't look at it as a pass rush or a team that goes, hey, we bring young guys in here, we develop them, and then boom, they go somewhere else. We see that with like the Rays with pitchers, right? The way that the rehab pitchers. We don't see that with the Bucs. So I don't know if we can really trust right now. Maybe the different coaching staff will do that, but you kind of almost have to go for a high commodity, right? Because they haven't been able to develop some of these guys.
That's true. And this is the first year in a couple of seasons where the Bucs can go and make a splash signing, whether it's at outside linebacker or corner or another position, because the past couple of years, they have gone bargain hunting and they found great deals. I mean, again, Baker Mayfield, when he first got to Tampa, everybody knows, it was a $5-6 million deal, and he eventually parlayed that into a $100 million deal. And the Bucs have been so focused on re-signing their own guys for good reasons that they haven't had to make that type of splash signing in recent years, and they've been successful and consistent in winning. But if you truly believe the Super Bowl window is open now, and they're in a better financial spot now than they have been in the last 2 or 3 seasons, we all know about the Tom Brady tax and paying that off and all of that stuff. Now that you have a little money to play with, if you believe you can make a run at a Super Bowl, you have to dive in a little bit. You can keep developing, and that's very important. That's why the Bucs, their biggest signings have been re-signing guys. But enough with the bargain hunting. Go to the Gucci store, go to some of these nice places, and make one splash signing and treat yourself, as they used to say in Parks and Rec. Like, buying nice stuff feels good. Do it with the player and make your team better at the same time.
Treat yourself. What a great time. What a great what was his name again? Aziz Ansari's
Tom Haverford.
Tom Haverford. Oh my god.
Yeah. And Rhea was her name. Like, that's the actress's name. I forgot what Donna, I think her name was on the show.
Yes. Treat yourself. Oh my god. Donna was fantastic. She was great with her Mercedes and everything. It was really good.
Yes.
But yeah, all right. So let's talk about the interior linebacker position. You look at some of these names. One guy that's on the list that I really thought that Jason Light could have brought in last year was Robert Spillane. I loved him from his time, with the Steelers and then with the Raiders. Like, it's a tackling machine. You need to bring in a guy, if you're Jason Light, that is gonna that's gonna get 100 tackles next year, right? Like, I mean, you need a guy that's gonna be able to go in there and be able to play with Levante David or without Levante David. But I think they need to invest a free agent pick and some draft capital on that interior linebacker position, because it's really been a precipitous fall off the cliff since Devin White was balling out in 2020, right? Because even when he wasn't in there, KJ Britt did a decent job, but I mean, by the end of last year, it was like, man, we got JJ Russell and you got a bunch of special teams guys playing in there. They have to get stronger in that spot.
No doubt about it. I completely agree. I think they're going to flood the inside linebacker position specifically, but I think they should at a couple of spots as well, like the secondary too. But as it pertains to inside linebacker, to me, I find it a very interesting spot. So I just talked about like making a splash play, going to the Gucci store, all that stuff. I do feel like inside linebacker for the Bucs specifically is going to be the one spot where they do a little bargain hunting compared to going for the top guy. Now, everybody's talking about like Dre Greenlaw and Nick Bolton. Greenlaw is a very interesting situation. He played at the 49ers. He tore his Achilles in the Super Bowl 2 Super Bowls ago, and then only played in 2 games, kind of recovering and not putting it all together. That's a tricky one because he's coming off of an injury. I know it's a year later, but like Nick Bolton, the Chiefs inside linebacker, is all the metrics coming out is like that he's going to get $15 million per season. I don't think the Bucs should go that route, but there are a couple different guys, and I'm glad you brought up Robert Spillane because he was on my list as well. 29 years old, but 158 tackles.
He's a machine, Matt. He's a machine.
Yeah, he is a downhill guy, physical. He's a thumper. So he's interesting for sure. And I think what's important for the Bucs this year at inside linebacker is they are pretty much revamping the entire room. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with Levante David, but outside of that, JJ Russell will compete for a spot on this team. But like you said, he's more of a special teams guy. Outside of Servassier Dennis, there are no guarantees on this inside linebacker room, and I want to believe Servassier Dennis is the guy. He's pretty damn good in pass coverage, but he's been injured over the last 2 years, so you can't trust him to be out there for 17 games. So Spillane, if you want a run-stopping guy, I think is very interesting. A couple of other guys. Tyrell Dotson, a very peculiar case. So he began last season with the Seahawks. They cut him. Ended up going to the Miami Dolphins. He had 3 interceptions with the Dolphins in half a season. He's 26 years old, so he's on the younger side. Had an 82.9 pass coverage grade based on Pro Football Focus. And I know Pro Football Focus isn't the end-all, be-all, but that's a pretty damn good grade right there. And it would be a very cheap option. Another guy, Jamie Sherwood from the New York Football Jets. I know there's a lot of bad things with the Jets. He was a very, very few bright spot for that team. He also had 158 tackles like Robert Spillane, was a safety, became an inside linebacker, and he does not have a lot of wear and tear on him because he was playing behind C.J. Mosley, but Mosley got injured a ton, especially last season. So he started a bunch of games, had 158 tackles. The only issue for him is that he comes from a 4-3 defense that didn't really blitz their guys a lot. You remember the Jets defense from 2 seasons ago when Bryce Huff was a big thing. All they did was just take their front 4 and go after the quarterback. They didn't blitz that much, so that's something to keep in mind. But those are a couple of players that I think if the Bucs want to go bargain hunting, not pay more than $7-8 million per year, those are some guys on my radar that I think could work out for the Bucs if they do end up hitting free agency and want to go to a place where they have a legit shot to be a starter versus in some other areas.
Yeah, I like the kid out of UCLA, Schlesinger, too. You know, if that's the option that they want to go. But yeah, they got to make improvements. And then you mentioned the secondary too. I look at corner, another safety. Like, how do you see that whole thing shaken out as well? Because do we know the future of a guy like Jamel Dean? Do you think they move on from him? And if they do they bring in another type of guy like that, whether it's in the draft? Because, you know, they find those mid-round corners, they find those mid-round offensive linemen. But do you continuously go with those, 6 foot and above corners that maybe don't have the best ball skills, but are really good at tackling and coverage, right? Or do you kind of switch it up a little bit and go, hey, we'll go with the guy maybe that's 5'10", but he's got incredible ball skills, maybe different than what Todd Bowles has done during his tenure with the Bucs.
I would like the Bucs to mix it up a little bit, but Todd Bowles has a type when it comes to corner. You just mentioned it. A guy that's over 6 foot, a little bit taller and lanky. So I don't see the Bucs going away from that. The case with Jamel Dean is super compelling. It's super interesting because, they could save some money if they let him go, but they're not creating a crazy amount of cap space like they would, in other years, or how they traded Carlton Davis last season. I don't think there's necessarily a trade partner for Jamel Dean. So how much better are you getting with another corner that you bring in? And I think it would be a veteran. So with a lot of these positions, I think whether it's outside linebacker, corner, safety, and inside linebacker, 2 of those spots will at least be filled via a veteran in free agency. I think there'll be one big time guy and one like middle of the road type of signing, kind of like how Jordan Whitehead was signed to a 2-year, $9 million deal. It's not exactly chump change, but it's not the biggest headlining free agent signing either. So corner, I think they should go with the veteran, but then also draft one. Again, maybe round 1, 2, or 3, depending on how the board pans out, because you've got to set yourself up for now, but for the future too. Jamel Dean, I don't know how much better he's going to get. He consistently breaks down and he doesn't take the ball away. The Bucs need an absolute ball hawk, whether it's at corner or whether it's at safety. So to me, whether or not Jamel Dean is on this team next season, it's an absolute coin flip to me. If they go to the veteran route, I like Travarius Ward from the 49ers. He fits the size requirement for Todd Bowles. I would like him. But like DJ Reed from the Jets, a lot of people have said, I'd love for the Bucs to get him. He's a shorter guy. He's a great player, but he doesn't fit that billing for the Bucs. So I don't see them going after him.
Matt, before I let you go, I want to ask you about that other guard spot. When you look at 4 of the 5 spots, I think we know what they're going to be. It's going to be Barton. It'll be Malk. It'll be Gedeke and Tristan on the outside. But that other guard spot, who do you think is going to be eligible, whether it's internally or externally? Do they address it in free agency? Do they bring Bredesen back, or do they try to, maybe take I wouldn't say a top round draft pick, maybe a mid round draft pick, or a guy that I've been, not yelling about, but also saying like, hey, they liked him in the beginning of last year, was Elijah Klein. So, he's still there. He's still in the room. So how do you think they'll address that other guard spot next to Graham Barton?
I think their first plan will be to bring back Ben Bredesen and give him a little bit of a raise. I thought he was very solid. Maybe pay him about $4 million next season if he wants to come back, and we'll see what other offers he gets. I don't think it'll be a gigantic free agency pool for him specifically of other teams that are going to want him. So I think the first step would be go after Ben Bredesen. If not, Elijah Klein showed his versatility. When he played at UTEP, he came from a very run-heavy type of offense, and we know the Bucs are going to run the ball a lot because of Bucky Irving and what they did last season. Klein would certainly be in the mix. I think it's either re-sign Ben Bredesen or draft an offensive guard or an offensive tackle and kick him inside, and then have a competition between that drafted player and Elijah Klein. That's probably the best way to go about it. One last thing really is there's a lot of appeal for other free agents on the offensive line to come to Tampa Bay because you have a top 3 offense in this league, especially that likes to run the football. So I think the Bucs will have a better options this year than they did a season ago or even 2 seasons ago.
Yeah, I like that. I like the ability to kind of keep your options open there. And that's one position group. You're not worried about Grizzard, right? Coming in and running too much of a different offense, or because I know obviously there's some carryover. He's going to put his own kind of spin on it. But I feel a lot more optimistic knowing that he's probably going to be a lot more like Liam Cohen and not as much like Dave Canales.
For sure, especially after getting to talk to him in his introductory press conference and a little bit after as well. The fact that he was here last year, I think, is really assuring to Bucs fans, especially with the passing game. And I like that he has come from different offenses as well. Remember, he spent some time in Miami under 3 different head coaches, which is crazy that he, was able to get through all of that, because that's just not how it works in the NFL. But I like that he comes from Mike McDaniel a little bit. He'll take some from Liam Cohen. He wants to get a little more vertical, too, with the offense in the passing game. So I'm excited for what he can do. We've seen the Bucs be able to work it out with the first-time play caller, and maybe there'll be some growing pains, but I'm confident in Josh Grizzard, no doubt about it.
Matt, what do you got up right now on Pewter Report?
We have gone through a lot of free agency options on the defensive side of the ball on our podcast, Pewter Report podcast. So we're going to be tackling edge rushers today on the show. And next week, we will be in Indianapolis for the NFL Combine. So talking to Todd Bowles, Jason Light, getting a lot of info from there, talking to prospects as well. We'll see what the Bucs are interested in, who they're interested in. So a lot coming up on pewterreport.com and our YouTube channel, Pewter Report TV.
Go check them out, man. They do such a great job. Matty4_Matera on all social media platforms. Matty, Scott Reynolds, and the entire crew over there. Matt, appreciate you, brother. Enjoy the rest of the week. And, have fun watching the game tonight, buddy.
Thanks a lot, Jay. Take it easy.
You got it, pal. Good stuff there. As always, a lot of great info from our friends over at Pewter Report, including Matty Matera. We're always talking about some Bucs here. Today is a hockey day for sure, but we definitely got to get some Buccaneers talk. Anytime something new comes up with the Bucs, we got to get on it. And for all the talk about Chris Godwin and the wide receivers and how they're going to address that position, one thing I love about Matt is that Matt and I, we don't always I don't want to say we don't see eye to eye, because I think that's too strong, but we have different viewpoints on certain things. So I don't think at any cost the Buccaneers, even if McMillan's there, I don't think there's any way possible that the Buccaneers draft him in that first round, or any wide receiver, because there's just so many different holes on the defensive side of the ball. And if this team really wants to get back to where they need to be, and that's the top of the mountain, the Super Bowl champions, they have to get better defensively. Resource after resource after resource. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's draft capital. I don't care if it's trades. I don't care if it's free agency. Defense, defense, defense. Okay, yeah, you'll get help offensively, but you even saw it last year. This team was still able to put up points even when Mike Evans and Chris Godwin went down. You have 3 good running backs. We'll have Cameron Johnson coming back. You have Ryan Miller, happy birthday to him, stepping up. That's what good football teams have, and that's depth. Defensively, you don't even have guys at the top of your depth chart. So I'm focusing a lot on that. I like Robert Spillane. That's the guy. I said it last year at the trade deadline, and I know the trade deadline for the National Football League is not as active as other leagues. I get that, but that was a guy I thought that the Buccaneers should have went after at the trade deadline. Middle linebacker. The Raiders were out of it. A tackling machine. You need a guy that's going to be able to go sideline to sideline, just like what we saw early on from a guy like Devin White, and who's going to let other offenses know, hey, we got to be able to get and set that edge. We got to be able to get out there and block this guy because he's a factor. We haven't had that guy since Devin White's skills deteriorated. So hopefully they go out there and get this guy regardless of how they go out and get him. Our guy, Hammer, edge rusher, 10 times more important than wide receiver, in my opinion. Hopefully the Glazers are taking Miles out to Burns ASAP. That would free us up on draft day. Hope you're well, my friend. We will be in contact soon. Working on some stuff with my guy, Hammer. So, you'll be seeing that right here on the Jay Recher podcast. If you are interested in being a partner and joining up with the Jay Recher podcast, feel free to hit me up at Jay Recher on all social media platforms. Email me, jayrecher10 at Yahoo, JAYRECHER10 at yahoo.com. Let's get you on board. This thing is taking off. We got a lot of big things going on in 2025. I got some things in the works, obviously, with the Lightning, with the USF, and with the Rowdy. So you'll see me everywhere. That's why you want to, again, follow me on all social media platforms at Jay Recher. We're having a ton of fun. We're doing a lot of big things here in Tampa Bay. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Shout outs to the Mitchell Mustangs. They're heading to the FHSAA 6A Boys Soccer State Championship. They pull off a thrilling 3-2 victory over Olympic Heights in overtime. So shout out to Mitchell. Shout out to Jesuit. They're going to the championship game as well. So really, really good stuff. You'll love to see that here locally. And it looks like Kyle Connor is going to get scratched tonight for Chris Kreider. Wow. He's one of those guys. I hate to say it, but I really haven't seen much from Kyle Connor. Winger, great goal scorer for the Winnipeg Jets, but he's kind of gotten lost in the shuffle. And if you want a guy that is going to be able to play 5-on-5, special teams, and a guy that can score those dirty goals, Chris Kreider's that guy. And you want to talk about tips, deflections in front of the net? I mean, Chris Kreider could be that guy that wins the game for Team USA on a tip, on a deflection. How great would that be? How great would that be if you tune into the game tonight and the USA wins 3-2 or 4-3 or 5-4, and the guy that scores the game-winning goal is Chris Kreider, a Boston guy who hasn't had a great year with the Rangers, but he somehow, some way finds a way to score a goal around the net, whether it's a rebound or a tip or a deflection. Chris Kreider is one of those guys, right? That's the kind of guy that is going to be the hero tonight. Yeah, it could be a Crosby, it could be a McDavid or a Matthews or a Tkachuk, but a lot of times it's a middle six guy, a bottom six guy. You never know who could be the hero. And Dylan Larkin scored a big goal the last time these two teams played. It could be a Vinny Trocheck. It could be a Chris Kreider. It could be Brad Marchand, who's, obviously a big-time player, but he's like a fourth-line player now with these guys. Seth Jarvis, he's drawing in for Travis Konechny. So when I look at those games tonight, all right, I'll take a look at what these lines should be. And this is last updated today. Team USA going on line one with Austin Matthews centering Jake Gensel and Jack Hughes. Jack Eichel centering Brady and Matthew Tkachuk. Dylan Larkin, line three with JT Miller and Matthew Boldy. And then Vinny Trocheck playing with his Rangers teammate Chris Kreider and Brock Nelson, the all New York line on the fourth line. Slavin pairing up with Brock Faber, Wernski, and Jake Sanderson, Noah Hannafin, and Adam Fox. So there you go. That's what we're looking like. So keep an eye out. The bottom six guys might be a Trocheck or a Chris Kreider for Team USA. Then looking at the lines for Team Canada, and this was updated just before noon today. Connor McDavid with Braden Point and Mark Stone. We saw a pointer get bumped up there. Crosby, McKinnon, and Sam Reinhart, line two. Hagel, Sorelli, and Marner, line three. And then Sam Bennett, Brad Marchand, and Seth Jarvis. Keep an eye on those guys. This has got a Sorelli, a Hagel, a Seth Jarvis, or a Vinny Trocheck, or a Chris Kreider. I think one of those five guys could score a goal tonight. And I just said five guys. Who wants a burger? Me, you, me, me, who? If I don't eat a big breakfast, man, right around this time, 1:20, 1:30, your boy starts getting hungry. And there's no breaks, right? So it's different when I was on the radio at 12 o'clock. Every 15 minutes or so, I was getting a break. I can go heat up some food. I can go order some food. But here, man, we're going 2 hours straight. 2 hours straight. But we're having a lot of fun here on the Jay Recher podcast. And shout out to PK Subban. He's getting a lot of love from people all around the hockey world right now. Jackie Redmond just tweeting out, PK is on an absolute heater. That's why we pay you to max out. And just the big difference between hockey and some of these other sports where these guys are bitching and moaning about playing time and they're making millions of dollars. And you just don't see that as much in hockey. Those guys are going out there. They're playing for their teammates. They're playing for the fans. They're playing for their teams. I'm jacked up for tonight. If you missed the start of the show today, I was jacked up. And as our guy Ren said, Jay had an extra cup of coffee today. I'm excited, man. I cannot wait to see how this entire thing shakes out. It's, again, we're cheering against John Cooper, Anthony Sorelli, or Brandon Hagel, but too damn bad. You guys are the opponents. You are the enemies tonight. You are not one of my friends. But this guy, our next guest, he is a guy that I consider a colleague and a friend, and a guy that is the number one oos in the Tampa Bay area, the great Ed Encina from the Tampa Bay Times. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, buddy, I'm trying to get my thing here. Okay.
There you go. There you go. Hey, did you see who I had on the show the other day?
Who's that?
John Romano.
Really?
I did it, baby. I did it. I'm not missing anybody. I got Romano. I got Topkin. I got you. I got Stroud. I got Joey Knight. I got Colleen Wright.
Yep. I think that's pretty much.
Who's your news director?
You should get our sports editor, Tracy Johnson, on.
Sports editor Tracy. Get her on. Tracy with an I, right?
With an I, yeah.
I'm a big fan of people that spell their names, a little bit different, like Eric Erlinson with a K, not a C. Eduardo and Encina, even though his middle name's not an N. That's how we roll, buddy. How was practice today?
Good. They ran hard, man. They skated hard today. It was a really interesting practice because, there's only like 9 forwards there, and Victor Hedman's not back, Coop's not there, so it doesn't even feel like a training camp practice because there's not that many guys out there. So, but they ran hard. There were guys by the end of that practice that were, gasping for wins. So, I think that the philosophy there was, yesterday, the first practice out, just kind of, get used to get touches back and being on the ice and being around guys. And then today they kind of went into a little bit more of a, physical, hitting guys, running a lot, skating a lot. And so, tomorrow they'll have off. And then I think no matter what, the Four Nations guys from tonight, Victor Hedman will be back on Saturday. There's actually a lot of games on the schedule for Saturday. I think like Detroit's playing at 12:30 on Saturday afternoon, a bunch of afternoon games. So it'll be interesting to see how some of these guys, after this, playing these physical kind of games, get back into it, right away, back into the season. So luckily for the Lightning, they've got a practice day Saturday, then they'll play a 6:00 game against Seattle as Seattle is coming off of a back-to-back after playing Florida the night before. And then Tuesday they'll have Edmonton, which is, I think they have a back-to-back like Philly, DC, Saturday, Sunday, and then come here for Tuesday. So they'll be getting them, after, on a 3-game 4-day stretch there. So it'll be interesting to see how, play returns here this weekend with all these, with a lot of guys coming back and everyone else coming back from the break after, a good 10, 11, 12 days off. Yeah,
it's kind of wild, right? It's like Saturday, 12:30, Minnesota's going to play Detroit. So less than 2 days after playing on the same, line, Matthew Boldy and Dylan Larkin got to hop on a plane. They're probably going to hop on a plane together and go right to the same spot. Like, Matthew Tkachuk got asked the other night in the game against Sweden. He's like, "Oh yeah, it's Saturday against Seattle." He's like, "Huh?" He was like, "Oh yeah." Like he's not in that mode. He's just not in there. He's like, I'm right here, watching all this. What about guys like Cooch? I know some other guys there, but like, how did Cooch look? And JJ Moser as well. Looks like he's going to be back for Sunday, which is a positive.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Cooch is he's Cooch. I mean, I don't think there's no physical limitations on him after he missed that game, that last game in Montreal. And I think for him, it's just getting used to playing with different guys. Like none of the guys he's used to playing with are around to be on the ice with him. So I think it's just been weird, kind of like I said, with 9 forwards. You really can't do any power play work. You really aren't doing any special team stuff. It's basically 3 lines and and go. So
Cooch is like that Will Smith meme at the end of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air when he's looking around and there's like furniture and everything. Cooch is like, where is my teammates? Where is everybody?
So yeah, I mean so I'm sure he can't wait to have a lot of those guys back on Saturday. You mentioned Mosier. He's good to go. I think that, talking to him yesterday, the plan is as it has been, which is for him to come back that first game back against Seattle. And I think he's going to play big minutes. I think that, they activated him before that Montreal game that weekend before the break. So they were definitely had some thoughts of.
They were thinking about it, right?
Bringing him back early, but then they ultimately decided that it was, in the best interest just to, and for his best interest just to, hold off on that. So, but he's excited. I think the big question, I wrote this today, is just kind of how, what the D core is going to look like. Are they going to carry 7D, go 11 and 7? Obviously, Darren Radish has been playing, alongside Victor Hedman. I would expect Mosier would go back into that spot on the right side. But obviously, Radish has played pretty well. He's kind of established a role for himself on the power play, and whether that's as the defenseman up top or the guy on the left side. Who knows what we see coming back on the power play on Sunday, because we've seen so many iterations of it. But so you've got that. Like I said, I think he's played pretty good minutes, playing with Victor. So, and I would be surprised if they didn't go 11-7 on Sunday, just because, that kind of gets, you have that protection on D. And also, I think at certain stretches, and this might be one coming out of the break, you like the fact that, you get some of your better players more time on the ice. As far as the forwards go, we'll see, Kucherov probably played 20 some minutes and that night, double shifting, and some of those other guys double shifting too. So I think that's what we'll see. And again, I think, from talking to Mosier, he's definitely chomping at the bit to get back. He didn't expect this to be, a 10-week, sideline for him. And, he wants to get back to, showing what he can do, which is what he did, before he got hurt. I think that, he showed a great ability to play defense, to be a defensive defenseman. And we saw a little bit of that offense too. And I think one thing that he's been working on, spending this time working on is actually taking pucks off the wall on his offside on left-handed shot from that right side in the offensive zone, which I think, can help him, kind of maybe establish more of that offensive game while he's playing on the right side. So I think that's something that they're working on too. They've used this time to kind of really kind of focus on that. We've seen him in practice a lot, doing that, taking those pucks off the wall, off the right side, on his backhand, and bringing him up onto his forehand. So I think, now we've got a team that's pretty much the complete team that we thought we'd see at the beginning of the year and throughout the season. So, with 27, 28 games left, I think, and that's kind of surge that they had before the break that puts them in a really good position in the standings right now. I think, now it's how do you kind of, channel that momentum? You've got the group together and move forward and kind of, propel yourself to solidifying a playoff spot.
And now we got to keep an eye on what they do, right? As far as the middle six guys, and as far as they bringing people in, and
right.
I feel like with the way he's played, Gage Gonsalves is probably going to get another run here. What about Connor Geekie? What about some of these other guys? I know Fortier got called up too, but I think we kind of have an idea of that first line. They have Cirelli, and you put Cirelli, Hagel, and Gonsalves together. What happens with Chafee and Encina and guys like that. That's probably one of the biggest things that needs to be worked out, right? I think the defense, it's probably a good problem to have that you have 7, 8,
right.
Even go down to Crozier, guys that can play in the pros. But I think that middle six, how you figure it out, because I'm not going to say bottom six, because we know that Glendening and Gonsalves will probably be 2 of those 3. But those other kind of 4 or 5 forwards, that's going to be one of the biggest puzzles that needs to be solved before this team gets to the postseason.
No, you're right. And obviously, if you start from the center out, obviously you have, Point, Cirelli, Paul, right? And really who you put around Nick Paul is really, right. I think, really the biggest question there. And, you mentioned Gonsalves, and I think he's shown the ability to play well with top 6 talent. And now the question is, can he add that kind of, offensive punch? Because he made plays, when he was playing on those lines with Gensel and Point and Kucherov and Cirelli, guys like that. Can he be a guy who can kind of help a third line as a guy that can help create those scoring chances when he's not maybe around those kind of players, But I do think that he's done enough now in his brief time back to earn a spot in that middle 6, and I still think he might see some time, up top there, as he did, every once in a while. But yeah, I do think, like you said, that bottom line is pretty much Gergensen, Glendening, Encina, Chafee, whatever, whoever you want to put in there. But I think where you really have to kind of figure it out right now is that, that third line and to an extent, the second line, who you want to pair with Sorelli and Hagel there. So, but yeah, I mean, like, I think they're going to start off now with, you see, Gonsalves is the guy that's really kind of, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see Geeky again, Dylan Duke. I mean, obviously he made a huge impression in one game, or in a couple of games there at the end. So, I think they feel a lot better about the internal options here at forward than maybe they did, a few weeks, a month ago or something like that. And then again, it's what's out there too, as we approach the trade deadline, and in terms of, now you should think that the market should start moving pretty quickly, because it's only two and a half weeks really until the trade deadline. So it should start going pretty quickly. The problem now is there's so many teams that still think they're in it, so you don't have as many teams out there that are bona fide sellers right now as maybe you would normally this time of the year. So I think that's another thing, is because of that, is the market value going to be more of a seller's market than necessarily a buyer's market as the next couple of weeks evolve.
Any talk about the Four Nations there? Was anybody saying anything? Because
it's funny. I went to talk to the one guy who's actually played in the Olympics, who no one really would think of, is Nick Perbix.
Yeah.
But the conversation, it's funny because you'll talk to the coaches and they're like, we love how the spotlight's been on it, and it's great hockey. It's great to see the best on best, and then kind of have that feel of the international. But I sense that they're all like, but don't get hurt.
Yeah.
But amongst the players, I think they're all pretty excited about watching, obviously, their teammates play and seeing their teammates be on that kind of stage, because they know the caliber of players that they are, and that maybe they don't necessarily get, regularly. But also too, there's not a lot of country pride in there too, whether it's the Canadian players or the American players. You'll see guys, Darren Radish and Nick Perbix are right next to each other in their stalls, and one guy's Canadian, one guy's American. They'll talk trash. Nick Paul's been out there talking about Team Canada. Mitchell Chafee, obviously he's an American. So, a lot of the guys have, they've kind of, they're all asking each other, who you got, when they all know who they've got.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of conversation. I think that there's a lot of pride there too, not just for their own countries, but just knowing how successful an event really this thing has become. I know, I for one, wasn't necessarily sure how, this being treated as quote unquote a showcase would be, how much better it would be than necessarily all-star games. But it's obviously, when you see what it means to these players, I think you can really see that it is successful. And obviously the big question is going to be, what's the effect on these players when they come back, right?
Right.
Physically, and not, maybe not even just, this week, next month, but, down the road. Because obviously we know that these guys play through a lot, and we know how much, the physical grind that they withstand to get through a season. And obviously these games are not just physically grueling, but they're also mentally grueling. So to think that those guys are going to be on this, whoever wins, whether it's, Jake Gunsel or, the Canadian guys, is, you're going from this high, to, 2 weeks, 48 hours later, playing the Seattle Kraken in game 54, so there's a lot to kind of deal with there.
No, I'm with you, man. And just the excitement, right? Like Saturday night, I was at a party and everybody was going crazy. And, how do you think tonight's game is going to shake out, like, compared to, what we saw on Saturday? Because this is going to be like a game 7. And we said there's so many different players on Canada that have won cups. There's more players on that team that have won cups that haven't won cups. And you could say the complete opposite about Team USA, where outside of Gensel, Eichel, and one other player, I can't think of it on top of my brain.
Right?
Matthew Tkachuk. Yeah, obviously. It's regardless. I think you throw that stuff out the window. These guys don't care. They're not like, oh, well, this isn't a Olympics, or this isn't like, this is going to be a battle tonight, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I call myself a doubter of this initially, but I remember that Coop has said this. I think you've heard it too. Is like, no one is thinking, once these guys hit the ice for the Four Nations, no one's thinking about anything else. No one's thinking about the Olympics. No one's thinking about, and anything else. And I think that's what we've seen from the quality of play and just the intensity of the plays is exactly that, is that these guys are in the moment. And because of that, I do expect to see the emotion. I don't expect to see the 3 fights in 9 seconds or anything like that. We might see, we're going to see the physicality. We're going to see, but I think these teams are ultimately trying to win. And so they're going to do what it's going to take to do that. So like I said, we might see a fight or two, but I don't think we're going to see the I think they're going to cool it out a little bit, compared to what we saw on Saturday.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy, man. And to be able to see a bunch of different things, all of the just like national pride, right? Like people that aren't even hockey fans, like they're into this, which is great. Just got to try to keep the momentum going, I would think, right? Like, how do you do it though? That's we have the, people talk about like the biggest questions. You talk about like the health of the players afterward. How do you capitalize on the momentum too? How do you capitalize on the attention, right, for the sport, whether, even this year, just in the regular season and the postseason, before you even get to World Cups and Olympics down the road, like ESPN and TNT, the people that have the TV rights, they have the TV rights for the regular programming too. They got to try to capitalize on this, don't they, Ed, to try to continue the kind of upswing here.
Right. I mean, it's tough too, because, like I used to cover baseball, and, no matter what, game 101 out of 162 game schedule, like what it means in the grand scheme of things is it's minute in the grand scheme of a lot of other things, but for these teams and for these players, like there's no doubt that I do think that, I talked to John Cooper about it. It's like, hey, like, are you going to become a better coach out of this event? And he's like, I don't see how you can, because one thing about this is the guys are sharing ideas, where in a game where, to be honest, a lot of guys keep it very close to the vest, where there's coaches, players, the culture of the room, everything like that. It's very insular. And so it's something like this where guys put all that aside, which they've learned over the years of what hockey culture is, and they put that beside in the name of trying to represent their own country and win for their own country. It's something that's pretty interesting, and so, all these guys are going to come back with, and we know a guy like Brandon Hagel, like Brandon Hagel's so good and he's become so good of a player because he watches everybody around him. He tries to pluck everything out of, we know how much he's learned from Nikita Kucherov, how much he wants to be around Nikita Kucherov to try to like suck in all everything he thinks, everything he sees. And he's gotten a lot from him. And so you can't tell me that him being in the room with the kind of players that he's around is not going to make Brandon Hagel a better player when he comes back. Same with Anthony Cirelli and Braden Point. We know about the hockey IQ Jake Gensel has already, and this is the first time he's ever represented Team USA. So all these guys are they're going to come back, in much better players. And obviously, the question is how does that morph into on this team, and just obviously the bigger picture of expanding the game and the interest in the game and stuff like that. But I think when you think about like the Lightning itself, like there's no way that these guys aren't going to be better from this, and then you have that dangling carrot, which is the Olympics in a year or two, which is going to be even on a grander stage. But I think, like we talked last week, is that this is a unique event because it's on Canadian American soil, and you really can't duplicate that. So, and you're not going to be able to duplicate that in Italy. So in that context, it is going to be something that's once in a life, for some of these guys, once in a lifetime. And we're going to see more of this in the future, but still being a part of maybe something that started this all again is, I know it's going to be pretty special for a lot of these guys. And, it's only up from here because in terms of the exposure and everything like that. So I'm super excited. Like I said, I was one of the doubters in this event because I was like, it's not the Olympics. It's not, it's going to be this glorified all-star event and stuff like that. But, we've all gotten behind it. We've all gotten excited. And we've all been around our TVs at 1 o'clock and 8 o'clock, to watch it.
Yeah, I think one of the other things too, when people talk about like this versus the Olympics, there's something special to this because it's a standalone, right? Everybody knows what time it's on. There's no tape delay, or sometimes when we're watching the Olympics, we're watching something that happened 8 hours ago. And all eyes are on this, right? It happened during a week, especially during NBA All-Star Week, NHL All-Star Week. So it kind of fit like in that right spot of, it was almost like I said, like with Tiger King, when Tiger King came out, it was the only new thing that came out right at the beginning of the pandemic. So it was the only thing. Would anybody else have watched Tiger King? Maybe not, but it really was the biggest thing at the beginning of the pandemic. And, my cousin was the photographer on there, so he was telling me all about it. And it was like the biggest thing. So I think a lot of times it happens with, the timing is everything. Like timing is everything and everything.
Story today on Mosier and just kind of everything that some mental and physical hurdles and just the team's thinking behind his recovery. We'll have a beat column on Sunday, just kind of wrapping up Four Nations and kind of digging into some of that. What the players are saying, what this can kind of do for hockey, for the international event, for the best on best. And then we're back to the grind. So, so like you said, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, I'm gonna be in DC when they hit the road and to play the Caps for an afternoon game on Saturday.
Nice.
So we'll have all that coverage on TampaBay.com and in the Times print and e-newspaper editions.
We love that. And Sunday I'm definitely wearing red, white, and blue, so Cooper can soak it. I can't wait if he says something. I'm wearing a red, white, and blue tie. I might dress.
We could
up
all do that. Yeah, we should.
Oh my God, that would be so funny if we dress. I'll dress up like Uncle Sam. That'd be great. Yeah, go check out Ed and our entire all of our friends over there at the Tampa Bay Times, including John Romano, who is in the crew now. At Eddie in the Art on Twitter /X, TampaBay.com/sports. Get that Tampa Bay Times subscription right now. Again, I mention this all the time. We have to support local. We have to support local, especially for our teams here. 3 pro sports teams, great college athletics, and just even outside of the sports too. Please support local, support the Tampa Bay Times. Ed, appreciate you, my friend. Talk to you next Thursday. I'll see you Sunday night at Emily. Thanks, bud.
All right, Jay. See you later, buddy.
See you, Little Loose. Big Oos, Little Loose. I'm Little Loose. If anything, he's the Big Oos. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for me. Follow everybody that we had on the program today. Eddie Encina, how great was he? Braydon, Coburn, Matt Matera, the entire crew. It takes everybody. We got to support local. Tomorrow on the program, I forgot who we had tomorrow. Oh, Greg Linnell is going to join us from Tampa Bay Lightning, 1:30 tomorrow to talk about the late, great Mike Lang and also talk about all things Four Nations. So cannot wait for that one. The game's tonight, 8 p.m. I hope to see you all there. Come on out to the Dignitary Cafe, 4817 Southwest Shore Boulevard. Come hang out with us, watch the game with my friends at the We the Thunder podcast. We're going to be live. We're going to be streaming live. We're going to be jacked up. Everybody's going to be happy. Red, white, and blue. We cannot wait for this and hope to see you out there at the Dignitary Cafe. All right. That'll do it for me. We'll see you tomorrow. Right. Again, I got to say it before I follow me on all social media platforms. Please subscribe on the YouTube. Every subscription certainly helps. Please, trying to get some more subscriptions, trying to ramp that back up once again now that we've passed 1,000. We can't stop at 1,000. We got to get up to 2,000 as well. All right. I'll see you guys at noon tomorrow right here on the Jay Recher podcast.